Hello and welcome to today's update. So this updated for close of business Friday the 16th of September. So you're looking at an hourly chart of SPY. You can see that I have a channel drawn up and it's downward sloping, and SPY came and tagged the bottom of this channel on Friday and then rebounded slightly. It has created a gap right here. So obviously it's going to try and attempt to fill this gap right here. So this top of this is around 389. So this 389 is going to act as an initial area of resistance. Now beyond that, the resistance is going to be at the middle of this channel right here, this line. You can see that this channel acted, this midpoint acted as a resistance right here, then right here, then right here. So if there is a further rebound, then I'm expecting this midpoint to act as a resistance as well. You'll see that SPY at the beginning fell to the bottom of this channel. It formed a base here and then rose. Now it's come back down to the bottom of this channel, and I suspect that it's going to try and make a base here. Now, because this is a downward sloping channel, it can slide down further in coming days. But until and unless it can overcome this midpoint, then we won't expect it to go to the top of this channel. But because it has spent quite a bit of time, I suspect it will stay there for a while before it's able to take out this midpoint. The other thing is next week we have the Fed meeting on Wednesday, when we'll learn how much increase will there be in the Fed's fund interest rate. So until that time, it's unlikely that we might see any significant bounce in SPY. Not sure that traders are going to make a huge bet ahead of that meeting. But either way, we want to see whether or not it's able to take out this middle of this midpoint and then go back towards the top half of this channel. But at the moment, this downtrend line, the bottom of the channel, will act as a support. Now, if we look at the daily basis of what's happening, so this is now SPY on a daily basis. So I have a channel drawn up here. You can see that the top of the channel, here was a support. There was a lot of structure right here. This top of the channel then acted as a resistance. Again, there was a resistance from there. It fell. So then the midpoint of the channel also acted as a support right here, and then right here. But then on Friday, it broke below this midpoint. So it did break support. Now it's in the bottom half of this channel. The lower end of this channel is the June low right here. If SPY continues to move lower, then this is basically where the downside target would be. So we want to see whether or not SPY can get back above the midpoint and get inside the upper end, because you can see that it spent quite a bit of time in the upper end right here. It also spent quite a bit of time right here before falling below into the lower half on Friday. So we'll see if in the coming days whether SPY can reclaim the midpoint of this channel. This another comparison that I wanted to show you. This is SPY. The left hand side is the SPY versus HYG. This is the high yield corporate bond ETF fund. What I wanted to bring to your attention is that generally they tend to move in the same direction. They have similar pattern, but there are times when there are divergences. When that happens, it may indicate a reversal in trend. So if you look at, so this is a 2 hourly chart of HYG on the right hand side. Now you can see that SPY has been considerably weaker than the bond market. So the bond market is basically doesn't seem to be, although it's moving lower, but it's not moving, it's not making lower lows the way SPY is making. So that suggests to me that perhaps there might be some strength coming in the equity market on a short-term basis. If we look at the 15 minutes first, then I want to show you something interesting. So this is now the 15 minutes on both SPY and HYG. So you can see that right here, HYG and SPY gap lower in the morning, but throughout the day, HYG started to move higher, gradually move higher, and then it showed quite a bit of strength towards the end. But you can see that SPY for a good portion of the day, underperformed HYG. In fact, SPY came back and tagged its intraday low. HYG didn't. So that suggests that perhaps the equity market might start to see some strength towards the end of the day, and that's what we saw towards the end of the day. You can see that HYG continued to show strength going into the close. The other thing to note is that the HYG is now coming up towards the midpoint of this channel. So if I go back to the 2-hour channel, and then I go to 2-hour for SPY, you can see that HYG is now come back to almost to the midpoint of this channel, but SPY is well below that channel. And given the fact that I'm seeing some strength in HYG, the bond market, I suspect that we could see some bounce in SPY in coming days. Now, obviously, SPY needs to get through this level first, which is 389, before it gets back to this midpoint. You can see there's quite a bit of resistance in the midpoint. But I am seeing some strength in HYG, because if you look at, this was the previous low right here, right there. And then HYG managed to get back above that level. So let me go back to SPY here. So this is SPY. You can see that HYG did touch the previous low and then bounced, but you can see that SPY is well below the previous low. So that suggests that if we see further strength in the bond market, then I would suspect that the equity market would also follow along and attempt to get back towards the middle of this channel. If we now see the same comparison between HYG and SPY or S&P 500, so this is HYG on the top and S&P 500 on the bottom. This is on a daily chart, so I just wanted to show you some interesting fact. Now you can see that back in June, so if I bring my cursor, you can see that this level of HYG is this level in SPY, because you can see if I bring my cursor, they both show 14th of June. You can see in middle of June, S&P 500 made a lower low, but HYG didn't. So this was a bullish divergence, and then you can see that both S&P 500 and HYG started to rally. Now, as the market was rallying, the bond market was somewhat concerned about this rally. So you can see that the bond market actually made a lower high right here, but S&P 500 made a higher high. So this was again a negative divergence, and after that you can see that prices started to move lower, both on HYG as well as SPY. You can see other divergence, other instances where we see divergence. So you can see that HYG made a lower low, but SPY didn't. And after that, we can see that there was a rally both in SPY and HYG. So looking at where we are right now, we can see that SPY has made a lower low here on a daily basis. Although HYG also did make a lower low, but HYG bounced back and closed above this previous low. SPY is yet to do that. Now, obviously, this I wouldn't consider this to be a divergence, but I am seeing some strength in HYG, the bond market. You can see it has already closed above the previous low right here, whereas SPY hasn't. This suggests that perhaps we might see some strength in SPY in coming days. So it's interesting to see the relationship between the bond market and the stock market, and it provides some clue as to whether or not we're seeing bullish or bearish scenarios developing. So moving on to SPY again. Now this is on a weekly basis. So you'll see that on a weekly basis, what we see is that, so this is an uptrend line going back to the COVID lows. So SPY closed just above this uptrend line. So we've got this downtrend line, which is which is still making lower lows. But going back to the COVID lows, we can see that SPY closed right at the uptrend line. So this is an important level. If it breaches this level, if it breaks below this level on a closing basis, that would be really, really negative. And then I also have this brown line, which is the anchored view up from the COVID lows, which is also sitting right at there. So there's quite a bit of support in this zone. So this is an important level. If this level is breached, we could see quite a bit of weakness. The other thing I want to bring to your attention is RSI. So RSI is although the price is not to the current price is above the previous low, RSI is well above the previous lows right here. So not sure that even if price goes below this low, RSI will confirm it. So that would be at least a positive sign. The other thing is that we had this downtrend line in RSI, which was broken in July. So the RSI level is right here. So I want to see whether or not RSI closes below this breakout level. Sometimes these breakout levels act as support. So it's possible that RSI could bounce from this level. So there's quite a bit of support coming up for SPY. We'll see if in this coming week and beyond whether or not it can hold support on this line. Moving on to now QQQ. So we'll start off with the hourly chart of QQQ. So again, we've got this downward sloping channel. It didn't tag the lower end of this channel, but it is within the bottom half of the channel. You can see it spent quite a bit of time here, and then it bounced, and now it's come back to the bottom of the channel. So you've got this base, first base right here, and now it's in the process of forming another base right here. So this uptrend line, this is the top of the channel, would be an important zone. Until it breaks above, this downtrend on the hourly will continue. And because this is downward sloping, it can continue to slide. But the midpoint is going to act as a resistance, as it has done so several times, right here, and then right here, then here. We see number of times the midpoint of this channel acted as a resistance. So we'll see whether or not it's able to break through. Once it's able to break through this level, then we can expect for it to move to the top of the channel. But for the moment, it remains below this. So this would be the resistance, would be the near-term resistance. So this is around, let's say around 293, 294. depending upon when it touches because it's sliding down. Now, if we look at QQQ on a daily basis, so this is the I have a channel drawn right here. You can see that there was the top of the channel acted as a support here, acted as a support right here. There was a support, and then the support was breached right here. Then this top of the channel acted as a resistance, and then this resistance was broken through. There was a rally, but then this fell below right here, and then when there was a bounce, we see some resistance. So the top of the channel acted as a support and resistance number of times previously. So this would be an important level to get through. Now the midpoint of the channel also acted as a support, so it closed right at that level. So let's just say that, let's give the benefit of the doubt to QQQ for the time being. But if it falls well below this level, then the bottom of the channel, which is basically the mid-June level, comes into play. So we're looking at levels around 260, 265-ish, based on this channel. But for the time being, I want to see whether or not how this channel holds up. So that's the daily view on QQQ. Now, if we move to the weekly basis, so you can see that there's a upward trend line going back to the COVID lows. It's closed right above this uptrend line, so this is a very important level. So obviously we have this downtrend, so it's forming a wedge here. So it's entirely possible that it could consolidate, stay inside this channel. That would be ideal, because I think it would be helpful if it consolidates, a little bit. Now, Fed announcement could make a decision. If the reaction to Fed announcement is negative, then this support could be broken, and that would be negative, because then then this low comes into play. The other possibility is that we'll have a channel. It could be sliding down along the channel. So there could be all sorts of pattern developing. So let's see how on a weekly basis QQQ does, whether it breaks to the upside or to the downside. So that's basically what the wedge looks like at the moment. Moving on to the rates market. So this is the 2-year bond yield. So the 2-year bond yield closed at 3.87. So it continues to move higher. If I show you a little bit on a longer time frame, you can see where we are. So at the moment, if you look at it at the moment, 2-year bond yield has already gone above the March 2002 high. The next area would be this level, which is around 4.5, and that'll take us to 2006, 2007. So it continues to move higher, and there's no sign of slowing down. Because if we look at the future expectation, so this is basically the March 2023 Fed funds rate expectation. You can see that it's at 4.35. It closed 6 basis points below on Friday, so it's closer to 4.5%. So what this says is that the market expects the Fed funds rate to be around 4.5% by March of 2023. So that means there's still quite a bit of rate increases coming. Now next Wednesday, after the Fed announcement, Chairman Powell may provide some guidance as to where the Federal Reserve may be taking the interest rate to. They've already communicated that they want the Fed funds rate to be around 4% by the end of this year. The question is whether they would provide further guidance as to where the rates might be early 2023, whether it would go up above 4%. So market would be quite keen to know whether or not 4.5% is now what the Fed is thinking. If we look at the 10-year bond yield, so this is the 10-year, so it touched 3.5%. So 3.5% was the mid-June high. I think this is an important level. If 10-year bond yield goes above 3.5%, that would be negative for the market, because then the 10-year would establish a new high, and generally markets don't like to see yields making new highs. So I think this 3.5% is important. So we'll be seeing whether or not what kind of reaction 10-year yield has following the Fed announcement. I think it might hang around here around 3.5% until Wednesday, and after that we could see a reaction, either break to the upside or maybe pull back, depending upon what Chairman Powell says. So that's the bond yield. So if we move to the oil market, so this is crude oil on a daily basis. So got this channel here, so it's been moving lower. Right now it's in the middle of the channel, but definitely it's in a downtrend. But there is some support around 384. So if I show you the weekly chart, so this is the weekly chart, you can see that the current level is right at this level. So this was a previous resistance, so there is a bit of a support right here. So it's entirely possible that we could see a bounce. That's because if I look at RSI is oversold, stochastic is oversold. So there is there is room for a bounce at the moment, based on weekly basis. Even on a daily basis, the momentum indicators are weak, there's no question about it. So we'll see whether or not there's any uptake. But on a weekly basis, 84, 85 is a good support area. So we'll see whether there's a bounce, and whether the bounce can take it above this upper end of the channel. So that's the oil market. So if we look at the gold, so this is the weekly gold futures, you can see it's right at the bottom of this channel. You can see that it tagged this channel number of times before. So we see right here, we see right here, right here. So we are now right at that channel. The question is whether it's going to break below this channel. If we look at the daily basis, you can see that, so this area, the 1700, is going to be acting as a resistance if there is any bounce. And above the resistance would be at this level, 1750. So the support is definitely at the bottom of this channel. So these would be the resistance level. Once it goes past this level, then this area will come into play, which is around 1815 to 1820 area. If we look at some of the sectors, S&P 500 sectors, so this is XLK. You can see this is a daily chart of XLK. So you can see that it has made a new swing low. So the next key level is the mid-June level, which is around 122. So definitely looking weak, but Friday's action was positive. You can see a bullish hammer. So it is possible that we could see a bounce, but it's been making lower highs. Momentum indicators are weak, so any bounce is likely to be short-lived. Again, there would be reaction to what the Fed says. So if the market reaction is positive, we could see an upward move, but negative reaction definitely brings the previous low in play. If we look at the communication is looking quite weak. It has now closed below the mid-June level, so that's not looking positive. If we look at the industrial XLI, so XLI has made a new low. So now these previous lows come into play, but any rebound will now act as a will find resistance in this area. So that's looking weak. If we move on to some of the individual stocks, So let's have a look at some of the individual stocks and see how they've been doing. So this is Google 1 hour. You can see that there's the downtrend line, the channel. It found some support at the bottom of this channel, but because this channel is sliding down, so I wouldn't be surprised if there is additional weakness. So resistance would be at the midpoint. So once it's able to get above the midpoint, then we can expect resistance or for it to move up to the top of the channel. But for the moment, this is sliding down along the bottom of this channel. If we look at Apple, we see something similar. So on an hourly basis, you can see there's a downward sloping channel. It found support at the bottom of the channel and rose slightly. The midpoint is going to act as a resistance. So if there's further weakness in Apple, then we can expect to see slide down along this channel. You can see that it spent some time at the bottom of the channel, then it bounced up. Now it's come back down to the bottom of the channel again. So you can see first base right here. Maybe it's trying to form a second base right here. But until and unless it can overcome the midpoint, obviously we won't, the base will continue to be formed. If we look at Microsoft on the hourly, again similar chart pattern. Bottom of the channel, it did find some support on Friday. Midpoint would be the resistance right here. So we'll see how it performs in coming days in relation to this channel. If we look at Tesla, obviously, so Tesla has a slightly different structure. It doesn't have a downward sloping. Now what we see right here is this. This is again an hourly chart. So you can see that Tesla spent quite a bit of time over here inside this channel, and then broke below this channel but managed to recover. Now it's consolidating on the right hand side. So it's forming a base. So it's completed a base right here and then a bigger base right here, and then it's attempting to form a base right here. So if it's able to get above the top of this channel, that would be bullish breakout. But if it breaks below the bottom of this channel, then this potential inverted head and shoulder would be negated. So we'll see how Tesla, how the structure forms in coming sessions. But at the moment, it does have the look of an inverted head and shoulder. If we look at the daily basis, what the picture looks like, Tesla daily, basically a sideways pattern, but definitely it's holding up better than other big tech stocks. The top of the channel is right here around 350, bottom of the channel is around 260. So it's right in the middle of this channel. So we'll see which way it breaks. If we look at Apple's daily chart, so what we see is that there's this channel right here. The top of the channel acted as support right here, resistance right here, support right here. Now it has broken below this support level. So we want to see whether Apple can reclaim this support in coming sessions. But if it starts to stay in this channel, then the midpoint would act as a support because it spent quite a bit of time within this channel. Then it could start to spend time in this channel as well. So it's important that it gets back above this channel fairly quickly. Microsoft. So Microsoft looks quite weak actually because see, it's already at the bottom of it's right at the mid-June low. So whereas the other big techs are still well above the mid-June low, but Microsoft is already there. If we look at this channel now, if this if it were to follow this channel, if this support is broken, then this lower end of this channel will come into play, because you can see that it's been forming this channel, and the midpoint of this channel has acted as a resistance right here, right here, right here. It broke above this resistance in July, but has now fallen below this level. So this is an important level, this area, the mid-June low. If it bounces from here, obviously this midpoint of this channel is going to act as resistance, but if it breaks below, then we're looking at possibly the lower end of this channel. So Microsoft looks quite weak, actually, weaker than the other big cap names. Google, if we look at on a daily basis, so again we have this channel, it's right at the bottom of this channel. So let's see whether or not it can bounce and get back towards the middle of this channel. If it falls, if it breaks below this level, then we'll have to see, we have to draw a new channel and see where the bottom of the channel might be. But for the time being, let's see whether or not it can hold support and get back at least to the midpoint of this channel. I think that's all for today. We've looked at some of the key individual stocks. We looked at the overall market. So coming back, we'll just see whether or not SPY can get back up to this channel, and whether or not how it deals with the midpoint. In coming session by Wednesday, we'll have a clear picture after the Fed announcement. All right, thank you very much for watching the video.